Hello and welcome to the Divorce Podcast. Um, I am happy to be joined today by lovely Diana Jordan. We started chatting before I pressed record, and there was a real danger we were going to be there all day. So I've pressed record so that you can all join in our conversation. So to introduce Diana to you, she is a former family law solicitor who specialised in children proceedings. She now works with litigants in person, going through the family courts, helping them to prepare their paperwork and prepare them for court hearings and appointments with CAFCAS, social workers, etc. And we were just talking about the fact that she feels very deeply about helping families, particularly where there are children involved, to make sure that they get reasonable outcomes, although that can be easier said than done. Most of Diana's clients are leaving narcissistic and abusive relationships, and these cases have to be dealt with differently, which unfortunately most lawyers don't understand. Diana is the author of How to Divorce a Narcissist and Succeed in the Family Court, and has been amazed thousands of copies have sold all over the world. I am less surprised by that because everybody seems to be absolutely fascinated, or fascinated might be the wrong word, but feel that this topic is one that really needs to be focused on and discussed. I know that our previous episodes where we've covered divorcing a narcissist have been among the most downloaded in our series. So, Diana, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, lovely to see you, Tamsin.
And you. We're recording this on a Monday morning, so please bear with us. My teeth certainly aren't in quite yet. Hopefully things will improve as we move forward. So we're going to talk today about I'm going to say planning a divorce, but the very early stages of you've decided that you need to leave, you've been told that the other party is leaving, or there's a joint decision, which I think probably is the rarest of those occasions. What I think could be really useful to begin with, Diana, if it's okay with you, is to set some kind of definitions around a narcissist, because this word is being used very, very, very prevalently. A lot of people contact me and say they believe they're divorcing a narcissist. And I think it's really important that we get some definitions and we get some understanding of what a narcissist actually is. Are you actually divorcing a narcissist, or are you divorcing somebody who's not a very nice person, or you may have been in an abusive relationship, but the other person isn't necessarily a narcissist? So can we start with what is a narcissist?
Right, what is a narcissist? Yeah. Uh, so people, when they come to separate or divorce, may react in pretty horrible ways,
Yep.
um, which does not make them a narcissist, but they will probably behave in narcissistic ways because when it comes to divorce, everyone's out for themselves, aren't they? Rather than thinking about us, it's now me. So they may well behave in narcissistic ways, but a narcissist will have been like that since you met them. But the mask may not have slipped. And yeah, normally when people come to me, they have realized they may have lived with it for 30 years and not realized. A lot of them just think they're dealing with a tricky person, a difficult behavior, and they'll have been told a sob story. about their childhood, and they'll be trying to fix them.
Okay.
Um, so they'll have known there's something wrong. Whereas if they suddenly display that behavior on divorce, that is not um, a narcissist. And the other big difference is these people who behave very badly when it comes to separation and divorce, they will calm down. So after a year or two, you will be able to co-parent with them.
Yeah.
Whereas with a narcissist, this is going to get worse, not better. So a narcissist will counterparent, not co-parent. So,
Oh, wow, counterparent. That's not a phrase I've heard before.
oh, really? Oh,
No, no.
oh, yes.
Oh, please
Oh, yeah.
do tell us what a counterparent is, because we've talked on the podcast about parallel parenting, but we've not ever touched on counterparenting. So yeah,
Well, that's why
tell
you
me
have
about
to
that.
do the parallel parenting because you can't co-parent because
Yeah,
the other parent is destroying everything you're trying to do.
yeah,
So they will just do the opposite. Um, yeah, so they're the ones that don't send the clothes back with the child. Everything's always missing, broken, whatever.
yeah.
And they're trying to alienate the children from the other parent, whatever. Yeah, I mean,
It's difficult,
it's
isn't it?
it's horrendous. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, but the lack of empathy is the hallmark probably of the narcissist. And I mean, if people look back throughout their relationship, they can probably see it, but which they may not have seen before. So yeah, it's I'd say it's a sudden worsening of behavior, but not new behavior.
Okay.
So yeah, you're right. It is important to distinguish the two
Yeah,
because if it's somebody that's just behaving badly because of the separation and divorce, you want to give them time um, before you start any divorce proceedings or financial negotiations. They're not in the headspace to do that. So forget that. Just give them time, try and, make it a workable situation so that they can calm down and deal with things rationally.
sure.
Whereas for a narcissist, that is absolutely not going to work. You don't want to give them time. You've got to get on with it because the time you give them will just make them worse because the narcissist is probably out to destroy you if you've left them. That's you're going to be punished, if not destroyed, forevermore. Um, so you've got to save your sanity, um, protect your children, and get whatever money you can out of it. So yeah, you're right. It is important to know what you're dealing with.
Yeah, those are very different, completely opposite ways of dealing with. So the first thing is we need to know what we're dealing with. Okay. So let's think about sort of planning. So let's assume for a few minutes that we're dealing with somebody who is thinking of leaving. Now, we know that if you're in an abusive relationship, you may well have tried to leave before. I think the average is 7 times to
Yep,
leave
yep,
an abusive relationship. So I guess we don't, if you've tried to leave before, or if this planning that we're going to talk about now doesn't work and you end up going back, this isn't about us saying this is how to do it the perfect way. We know that it's really difficult to leave an abusive relationship, but what we want to do is have you equipped so that if you are going to leave, you do it in the most sensible, safe, well-planned, structured way. If you end up going back, that's kind of how it often works. So there's no judgment or criticism, but we want you to be able to do it in the safest possible way. So you've decided that you've had enough. What are some of the first things that we need to be thinking about or doing?
What I always say is you need to plan it like a military operation, because if you go charging into battle, you're likely to lose the war because you have not thought it right through. Somebody's upset you, you've gone charging in, and yes, you might win that particular battle. We might not if it's a narcissist, um, but you've got to look right to the end. And so the first thing you've got to work out is where you want to end up. You've got to have a goal
Okay.
for the end, and people do pick the wrong goals. So the narcissist's goal will be either to destroy you or to keep getting narcissistic supply, because a narcissist partner is their primary source of narcissistic supply throughout that relationship. And if you're going to leave, that supply is threatened, which is why their behavior escalates, because they're desperate not to lose that constant source of supply.
Okay, before we move on, let's just explain what narcissistic supply is for anybody who's not aware and that hasn't sort of come across that phrase before.
So a narcissist, because they've got no internal resources of their own, they feed on other people's. So often their fear, if you show your fear, they love that. That's one source of supply. Or if it's someone that makes you angry, they love to see you get angry or upset. Your tears that will frighten off most normal people. They absolutely love to see that. Yeah. Um,
Wow.
so that's the sort of thing they thrive on. And also, of course, your adoration and attention. So the fact that you're um, looking after them, mothering them, whatever, um, is all part of their supply that they're about to lose. So
Mm,
it's a huge threat to their being.
sure.
And that's why you've got to plan this so well.
Okay.
So for a lot of people, their end goal could be a peaceful life,
Sure.
or it could be to protect their children.
Okay.
They're kind of realistic goals to aim for. Unfortunately, a lot of them pick less realistic goals, which, they're fed up to the back teeth with this narcissist and they want to call out their lies, because that's what a narcissist does. And the lies are very upsetting to people, especially the lies about them, the smear campaigns that they run. And so the victim might be out to um, call them out on this and have everybody see this. It's very difficult to do. The narcissist is more persuasive. Um, it doesn't work. It's not a realistic goal. Realistic goal is to get out and get stay safe, have a peaceful life.
Okay.
So
So we start with the end in mind.
we start with the end in mind, and
Okay.
we keep the end in mind when the going gets tough, because it well does get tough.
Absolutely. And you will have had this as well, but I've had a number of clients question whether they've actually done the right thing, even quite a long way down through the process, because it's hard, and there will still be abuse post separation, unfortunately.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And it ramps up, as you've rightly said. It doesn't go away because you separate, because they're not getting that narcissistic supply as they hope they would. So with that with that end in mind constantly, how do we go about planning to leave?
I would just say there are a few people who probably shouldn't leave.
Okay,
The people who really regret it because of the terrible state of our family courts, the
sure,
people who really regret it are the people who can no longer protect their children, because the narcissist very often is not interested in the children. They play a very small part in their children's lives, unless some of them are great, fun dads who get a lot of supply from their children's adoration of them. So some of them are involved with their children. A lot of them are more interested in making money or having affairs or whatever they're off doing. And they've had very little to do with their children. Once they're separated, they go to court and they get at least 50% of the time with their children. And they're abusing their children. And then the other parent is saying, well, I shouldn't have left. At least I could protect them. Yes, he would do this, but at least I was there and I could stand between him and the children and stop him shouting at them, hitting them, whatever he's doing. And now I can't. And I should have stayed. So that is the first thing for a protective parent to consider. Um, yeah, it's dreadful, but is it actually worse if they're completely out of your orbit and you can do nothing?
yeah,
So, assuming that's not the case, or that the family court's going to make better decisions sometime soon, what
okay.
what do you need to do? Um, and yeah, so the first thing you've got to decide is where you're going to go.
Yeah,
That's the biggest decision. Can you afford another home? Um, because it's very unlikely the narcissist is going to leave their home.
yeah,
Very unlikely indeed. I had one recently. I still don't know what made him leave, but he did, which is great. But normally you've got to assume it's you that's going to be the one to leave. So where are you going to go? So if the abuse is very bad, so bad that you can't stay, then one option is to go to a refuge and apply from there for an occupation order so that you can get back into the house with the children. Um, Otherwise, it's do they have enough money to rent somewhere? Um, and the people that do are the fortunate ones.
yeah,
Um, but you've got to plan all this and do it without the narcissist knowing,
sure.
which is why, it can be a year or two to actually plan your leaving.
Yeah,
Um, So you've got to get your team of people around. You can't do this on your own. Of course, if you've really been in a narcissistic relationship, you're likely not to have many people around you. The narcissist will have isolated you from your friends and family.
Yeah.
So, first port of call will be a domestic abuse charity. Hopefully, support from there. Um, you can get support in online groups. But it's really time to, and a therapist or a coach or both will be invaluable. But and hopefully they can empower the person to make some more friends at that point.
Yeah.
Because once you get into court and court proceedings, who you're going to ask to look after the children while you go to court and things like that. You really got to think ahead,
Yeah.
right ahead. It's not enough just to think, oh, I'm going to be able to rent this place and oh, we'll move out and oh, it'll be wonderful. No, it won't. It'll get worse. Um, they'll take you to court and yeah, it'll, you've got to think right through to the end. How are you going to get to this peaceful end?
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so
So,
yeah.
so where are you going to go?
Mhm.
How are you going to pay for it if it's a cost implication? Potentially contact local domestic abuse charities, particularly if you need a refuge, if it's not safe for you to stay where you
Yes, so
are.
so you need to ask them to do a risk assessment to see,
Sure.
um, because as we know, the time of separation is the most dangerous time for people leaving
Yeah.
abusive relationships. So that risk assessment is really important so that you know where you are, where you're starting from,
Yeah.
because yeah, um, how are you actually going to do that?
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. And I guess from a financial perspective, even if you've got the money to afford to pay rent and so on, the narcissist is going to do everything within their power to limit your resources because they are going to try destruction, aren't they? So they're going to close down anything that they've got control over. You're not going to have access to it. They're going to shut that down. And even from a work perspective, even if you're lucky enough to have been in a narcissistic relationship and have employment, which from my experience is limited number of people that applies
yeah,
to. But even if you are lucky enough to be in that position, they will probably do everything within their power to halt that as well. So they won't be looking after the children so you can go to work. They won't be doing drop-offs and pickups to enable you to continue to work, etc. So you've got to have a plan around all those things as well. And
yeah,
enabling yourself to continue to earn money because otherwise everything will be cut off.
yep. And not only that, if they're into a smear campaign, are they going to try and contact your boss and work and say that, you're not fit to be there or whatever they're going to do, try and get you to lose your job.
Yeah,
And if they are both working, they're likely to have a big mortgage. What's going to happen to that? Because they will stop paying. Can you afford the full mortgage and the rent, or what's going to happen to your credit score?
yeah, yeah,
Um, so you've got to be thinking, you'll know more about this. What do they need to ask for a mortgage holiday, or how does that
Yeah.
How does that work? Does that last long enough to get through 2 or 3 years of court proceedings?
I mean, probably not. There are a number of banks who, the lovely Rosie Lyon, who's been on the podcast before, who is now Rosie Parker because she has married a wonderful man. But Rosie's been campaigning for banks to change the way in which they deal with people who've been in abusive relationships, recognizing what the abuser is likely to do, their playbook, how they're likely to deal with these things, and what the situation they're going to be left with is. But we're in a place where there are some changes made, but not to the extent that we need or would like. Mortgage, you can have a mortgage holiday, or go on interest only for 6 months, but 6 months is unlikely to be long enough to proceed through the court, to a
Oh gosh, I didn't
final.
realize it was only 6 months.
Yeah, yeah, it's only 6 months. It's very short.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
Oh, so yeah, that is not,
not long enough.
no. So they're going to have to start divorce proceedings, make an application for interim maintenance to cover
Yeah,
mortgage payments in that. Yeah.
yeah, as soon as you've left. What about before you leave? We're in the planning stage. We're thinking about where we're going to go, how we're going to support ourselves and the children. Are there things that should be like removed from the house?
Oh,
Very low
absolutely. Yes, I was
question.
just was just going to say that. So the most important thing is often the children's passports, because yeah, the last thing you want to be worrying about is the children being abducted. So children's passports, birth certificates, so the other parent can't get a new passport that quickly. Um, yeah, your own marriage certificate to stop them. Oh, you can get one fairly quickly, but it does hold up the
Yeah,
divorce process. So yeah, all your documents, and yeah, if you've got the time to do it, financial documents as well. Because very often it's the narcissist who's been in control of all the finances. So um, you've got to get a grip on that as well as everything else. So copies of the documents, if you can't take them all, um, yeah, so that you can go to a financial advisor and find out what your situation is, which is a bit hard to do if you know nothing and have got no documents um, to show it. So yeah, mortgage statements, bank statements,
yeah,
pension documents, so that you can at least get copies of these if you don't even know who the mortgage provider is, for instance, which,
yeah.
some people don't
Yeah,
know
it's
the
often
first thing.
the case, isn't it, that people don't know what they've got. And and on that, you can only complete financial disclosure with the bits that you do know. You can't, and a lot of people I've met worry about this, but you can't disclose things that you don't know. And that's okay. Nobody's going to expect you to.
No, but the problem is the narcissist is going to hide as much as they possibly can.
Of course.
And if you don't even know that they've got something to hide,
Yeah,
you've lost that before you even start.
yeah,
Um, and some people suspect that there's things going on in the background. Well, before you leave is the time to do some digging. So yes, before you leave is also a very important time to collect evidence, whether that's for children or financial proceedings or both. Um, so if the other parent is abusive to the children, what evidence have you got of that? And if not, you better collect some quick, because without it, you're not going to be able to protect the children in family court. So, um,
What does that evidence look like? What sorts of things would you suggest we're looking for?
well, if there's any physical injury, certainly photographs of that are the best possible evidence. Um, Also, recordings of the abusive parent. Now, these are difficult in court proceedings, um, and recordings of children are very much frowned upon, but sometimes they can be used, and they can certainly be used. You can transcribe a recording and put it in a statement. Um, so I would always say get as many recordings as you can. We'll worry later about whether and how they can be used in evidence, but collect it now. And also write everything down. But of course, the narcissists are very good at stalking you and getting into your emails and everything else. So how are you going to keep this evidence safe? Are you going to email it to somebody else and then delete your emails, or what are you going to do? But however you do it, um, write it down. We need a daily log of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that is good enough evidence. But people think they'll remember something awful's happened. Yes, of course, they'll remember it was Monday, the 10th of October, or whatever it was. But of course, they won't, because 2 years later, so many other dreadful things have happened. They haven't got a clue when it was. And it's far less convincing, or certainly far more convincing, if you can say, yes, it was Monday, the 10th of October, this happened. And
Yeah.
I've got a note of it, however that note is made.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and there's also social media. So, if this person is splashing the cash, let's have screenshots of that, because, magically that's all going to disappear when you get into court in financial proceedings, and you've got no evidence of that at all. So that's what I say. It is a military operation. Everything has got to be
Yeah,
thought through and planned to get the most successful outcome.
sure. Crikey. Okay. And if
Yeah.
obviously you're not going to file for, I mean, I'm saying obviously, but maybe it's not obvious. You're not going to file for divorce proceedings until you've left the family home, because that's going to be sent to your ex. So it's not a good idea to pre-warn them. So think about,
It's absolutely not. And the best way to leave is for them to have no idea and
yeah,
just come home to find your note, um, that you've gone. And the important thing is to leave a note which says you have gone because of their abusive behavior.
okay,
And you take a photograph of that note so that you've got, this is the last bit of your evidence before you leave. Um,
and
because
we,
otherwise they come up with all sorts of excuses about why you've left. But you've put that marker down
yeah.
now.
And would you, because you're going to be taking the children with you,
Mhm.
do you therefore, I mean, I know you wouldn't want them to have to know where you've gone to, but should you have to tell them because of children? or do you not have, there's no responsibility to have to inform somebody of where you're going and where you're taking the children? Or is that there are kind of, well, they've, you could be under threat of being accused of abduction type of thing? What's the legal situation with that?
Well, you're not taking them abroad, so it's not going to be abduction.
Okay.
Um, and yes, once you've gone, you should let them know that you've gone and the children are okay. And if it's safe for them to have a video call with the children, depending on their relationship with the children,
Sure.
um, you would keep some of that going. But yes, you should tell them it again, you've had your risk assessment done by
Yeah.
the domestic abuse agency. What is safe? How
Yeah.
much can you let them know? But they're a narcissist, they're going to find you pretty quick. It's
Right.
it's their modus operandi. But um but yeah, for the moment you take them. And if you think the narcissist has got wind that you're doing this, it's probably best not to send the children to school that day. You leave them with somebody else so that once you've moved, the children, you can take the children, because otherwise, does the other parent get wind of it and turn up to the school? The school can't do anything. If they've got parental responsibility, the school will have to hand them over. And then you're stuck in your new place without the children, and the children are back in their old home with the narcissistic parent. So that's all in vain.
Yeah.
Um, which is why, you absolutely mustn't tell them that you're going to go. Once you tell them that you're wanting to leave or divorce, you're declaring war, and it will be
Yeah.
outright war. So, you've got to pull the rug from under them
Yeah.
if you possibly can. I mean, it all depends on the narcissist. I mean, some of them are a lot worse than others, and some you can get out from under their feet without terrible consequences. So, yeah, we're probably talking the worst cases here.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, uh,
It's a lot, isn't it?
it's an awful lot. It is, and these people are in a dreadful state to start with, because they've been living with this controlling person for all this time. To suddenly take control of their own lives and their children's lives in this much detail, it's a lot to ask, which is why I say take your time. If it takes you a year or two to get out, so be it, but let's do it properly.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, we are, I mean, I could talk to you about this for hours if I'm brutally honest, but we're probably better not. So can you let our listeners and viewers know, um, firstly, how can your book help? And secondly, how do you work with clients who do come to you? I know you're not taking anybody on at the moment because you're absolutely swamped, because everybody who's in this position needs a Diana in their camp, and we haven't cloned you yet. So, but start off with the book. How can the book help?
Well, the book talks you all the way through it, and yeah, a lot of people say it's their Bible, and it will talk you through the perils of the family court and tell you what to do when, because people don't know where to start, and they think they need to start by going to a solicitor,
Yeah.
and they absolutely don't. They should be coming to you first, not a solicitor, because uh, and they think they need a divorce, but the only thing a divorce gives them is the ability to remarry. And most of the people I talk to
Not
are,
quite ready for that.
So
Yeah.
we do not need a divorce,
No.
okay? Before before we go anywhere near that, we need to know our financial situation.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We we need to understand that if you're divorcing a narcissist, you will never get what you're entitled to.
Yeah.
So instead, you want to be looking at what you can live with or what you can live without.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is where it gets difficult with solicitors because they don't understand the narcissists. So they don't understand that their client's sanity is actually more important to them than getting the extra, even if it is thousands and thousands they're entitled to. You know, there's plenty more money in the world. We've just got to work out how to get it where it's needed. Your sanity, how do you get that back?
Yeah. Takes
So
a long time.
what can you live with? What do you need?
Yeah.
And then you inflate it because the narcissist always has to win.
Yeah.
And this is what, the lovely people leaving the narcissist. Oh, I just want what's fair. Yeah, okay. If we're going to get you what's fair, we've got to
Got to
inflate
ask for
it.
more. Yeah.
Let's decide what the minimum you need to live on. We'll add 30% to that, and the narcissist will gradually bring you down. And they will have won, which is all they're interested in, because you've come down from this is your absolute starting
Yeah.
point. And you've got what you can live on. But again, you see, solicitors will say, oh, you've got to be reasonable. It's not reasonable to ask that. And they don't understand that you're not dealing with a person who's any sort of reason.
Yeah.
This is where we need to start. So yeah, they need to see you first and be very clear about where they're what they're aiming for and how they're gonna get there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay, so
divorce.
the book's going to talk them through all of that. The book's going to
Yeah,
talk them through step by step how to plan, how to what to
yeah.
think about, how to set your goals, how to the whole gamut.
How to deal
Um,
with the
how
narcissist
to deal
pre
with
and
the
post
narcissist. I guess the
separation.
important thing to say at this point is don't buy the book and keep it in the house. Keep it somewhere safe. You know, the house is the family home is the absolute worst place that you can put that book. Um, it's got
Absolutely.
it's got to be out external. I wouldn't download it to your phone. I wouldn't keep anything on your phone, in your emails, on your laptop, because the likelihood is that those are being monitored. Anything that you need to do, borrow a friend's phone, or have a separate phone that's kept at a friend's house, or something along those lines, because your safety is really important. And if
It is.
it
Yeah,
finds any of this,
yeah.
your and your children's safety could potentially be at risk. So yeah, let's not buy the book and have it delivered to home. um, and
No,
I
let's
get
have a separate device to download it onto.
absolutely, yeah,
Or
that's
keep it at work and
keep
read
it
it
at
in your
work.
lunch
Yeah,
hour in your drawer at work. But yeah.
yeah, that's not a bad idea. Um, and so if you ever do get to the point where you're taking clients on again, Diana, um, what work do you do on a one-to-one basis with your clients?
So I mainly work with litigants in person, um, either because they can't afford a solicitor because financial control has been part of the narcissist's playbook, um, or because unfortunately most solicitors don't understand what they're dealing with and don't deal with it in the right way. So I basically do the same as a solicitor, but I don't have the headed note paper, so the client has to copy and paste what I draft for them and send it themselves. So whether that's to send to the other party's solicitor or to the court, but most of them can manage the copying and pasting and don't need the expensive headed note paper. Um, Although sometimes solicitors are useful. But, and
Also true.
yeah, so I can help them find a direct access barrister or yeah, all the other professionals they may need, or a Mackenzie friend to go to court with them if they can't afford barrister. Um, yeah,
You don't
basically,
actually go to court. You're not a Mackenzie friend. You don't work as an IDVA and go and support in courts. It's kind of
I don't.
working with
I,
the
I don't.
background.
I've
No
done
time for that. Too busy
I've done
doing
my time
everything
in
else.
court. Yeah, no. I'll do online hearings, which occasionally you get, but no, I won't go out to court anymore. But I will find people, other people
People who can. Yeah.
who can and will, yes,
So,
and or an IDVA. But yeah, I don't know too many of them. If you know any more of them, let me know.
the only private IDVA that I know is Karen Kipping, who again we've had on the podcast discussing these issues
Exactly.
previously. The situation is that you can only get trained as an IDVA, I believe, if you work for one of the domestic abuse charities, and very few train and then go on externally to do the work privately. So yeah, it's very and there aren't enough even in the charitable sector because charities aren't receiving enough money. There are too
No,
many people who are in this position, and more and more sadly are coming forward every day. And I think in part it's becoming not acceptable. That's not the word, but less of something that you should hide that feels as though it's your fault. It's becoming more that it's publicly accepted that it's not the victim survivor's fault, and perhaps therefore people are more willing to come forward, but also it feels like it's something that's becoming more prevalent in society, which again is an awful
no,
thing. But yeah,
no.
domestic abuse charities are under huge pressure in terms of the number of people that they need to support, and so there just aren't enough IDVAs. We need lots more people trained to do it, but maybe
We
that will
absolutely
happen.
do. Yeah, because
Yeah.
yeah, I've never found any domestic abuse charity that will send anyone to court with a client. Normally, because as you say, they haven't got enough of them. But even if they have, they say, "Oh, we're not putting our staff at risk by sending them to court, so the perpetrator knows who they are." So yeah, it's really difficult.
It's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. I know there was a big conference over the weekend, and I can't remember what it was called, but I did see on LinkedIn that Jess Phillips had attended a large
Oh,
conference along with Nicola Sharps Jeffs and the domestic abuse commissioner, whose name escapes me at the minute. So there is work being done in tandem with the Labour conference, and hopefully there'll be some movement in the work that they're doing. I know that they speak passionately about their commitment to doing something, but there is so much going on in the UK at the moment that we're not sure whereabouts in their plans it comes. I think that's the difficulty. Um, Diana, before we call an end to this episode, is there anything that you want to add? Anything that I should have asked you that you feel that is important to reiterate?
no, I think, yeah, be informed.
Be
So,
informed.
yeah, knowledge is power. So, yeah, read my book, and there are pages of resources at the back of the book. Um, your inclination is to stick your head in the sand and hope it will go away. It won't. So, yeah, be as informed as you possibly can be. Um, don't get too involved in informing yourself about the narcissist. You want to inform yourself about where you're going, how you're going to get there, the court process. Um, People can get bogged down into the life of the narcissist, but that's really what you want to leave and move away from. You've spent years trying to sort them out. It hasn't worked. Leave them behind and move on.
Oh, good advice, that Diana. Good advice. A link to get hold of Diana's book will be in the show notes for this episode. Just these remains for me to thank Diana very much for coming along to talk to us before. I'm sure that you've all found this an incredibly useful episode. And if you have, please do leave us a 5-star review, because it does help us to get word out to other people and spread the word and enable us to help more people who are in this position. So many thanks for listening or watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.